Okay, so section 10.5 is on factoring when the a is equal to a 1. This is really the easiest kind of factoring problem, and this is in the middle of the factoring map. This is trial and error method when a equals 1. That's what this section really could be called, trial and error when a equals 1. Alright, so we know that if we multiply polynomials together, that's going to give us, if we have two binomials, that'll give us a trinomial. And factoring is going to be the opposite of that. If we have three-term polynomial, it will factor into two separate binomials. And that's what this section's about. It's undistributing. It's the opposite of the distributing. And we call this factoring. It's pulling it apart. So the method that we're going to use is, in a problem like this one, x squared plus 6x plus 8. What we do is we look at the 8 and we say, what two numbers multiply to 8 and add to 6? Well, the two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6 are 4 and 2. And so x plus 4 times x plus 2 is the factored form. Now, whenever we have a problem like this, we're going to always want to check it by multiplying back out after we're done. So here we have another one, x squared plus 8x plus 15. So again, the question is, what two numbers multiply to 15 and add to 8? What two numbers multiply to 15? Positive 5 and positive 3 multiply to 15 and add to 8. So our factors are x plus 5 times x plus 3. So that factored form of x squared plus 8x plus 15 is x plus 3 times x plus 5. Alright, so here we go. We're gonna try some other problems here. And so the question is, what two numbers multiply to positive 20 and add to negative 9? So I'm going to go ahead and make my parentheses over here. I know that the first two terms are just going to be x and x. And then I ask the question, what two numbers multiply up to a positive number and add to a negative? Well, the two numbers have to be negative, because a negative times a negative equals a positive, and a negative plus a negative equals a bigger negative. So what two negative numbers multiplied together will make positive 20 and add up to negative 9, 4 and 5. Now, if you put a 5 in the first parentheses and a 4 in the second parentheses, that wouldn't be wrong. All right, looking at the next one, what two numbers multiply to negative 9 and add to negative 8? Again, I'm going to start off just by putting some parentheses out here, and I'm going to put an x and an x in, and I'm saying, okay, what numbers multiply to negative 9 and add to negative 8? Well, I do know that if the last number is a negative 9, one of the numbers is going to be a positive, and one of the numbers is going to be a negative. Well, which one is going to be bigger? Well, if the middle term is negative, the bigger number has to be a negative. So what two numbers multiply to 9 and add to negative 8 is going to be negative 9 and positive 1. Those are the numbers that multiply to negative 9 and add to negative 8. Again, if I'm checking these, if I want to check to see if I have it right, all I need to do is multiply the x times the negative 9, that's negative 9x, and the 1 times the x, that's 1x, and negative 9x plus 1x adds to negative 8x. That's my solution. That's my answer. And the last one here. What two numbers multiply to negative 18 and add to positive 3? Again, I just put an x in the first location. And I know that the numbers that are going to multiply to a negative, negative 18, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So I'll just make my positive and negative in there. And then now, since the middle term is positive, I know that my two numbers that multiply to negative 18, the bigger one has to be positive. And what two numbers multiply to negative 18 and add to positive 3? Well, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. 6 times 3 is 18. So it's positive 6, negative 3. Again, I'm going to check that out. by multiplying the x times the negative 3 and the 6 times the x, and those add up to 3x, and that's what I'm looking for here. So those are some other examples of factoring by trial and error.